as we in urban areas have been able to build the understanding of the importance of assets even greater than many on the reservation, because reservations are sort of moving increasingly towards more mainline economic development. And even the cities have been forced to understand more mainline economic development. And so there's a certain leadership in the cities that's invaluable to the reservations in terms of dealing with mainline economic development. So the principles, the strategies, how private property is leveraged, the whole way of dealing with urban industrial society, because urban industrial society still calls the shots, because that's where most of the money is, And so you have to deal with that reality, even if you're in a rural area. So the urban groups are petitioned to continue to provide leadership, break down sort of barriers in an industrial society and help lead the way. Do projects that are somewhat unique. And what tribes are recognizing increasingly is these unique projects in the cities are very financially beneficial to tribes as well as politically beneficial. Because the urban groups are increasingly integrating themselves back with the tribes. And so one tribe after another, the elections are increasingly being dependent upon their brothers and sisters in the city. Navajo tribe, which is to me sort of the leader in recognizing many of these realities. When I was director of the Phoenix Indian Center in the mid-70s, every service I provided to a Navajo tribe reimbursed me for. And this was in the mid-70s. And the president of the tribe at that time was Peterson Zah. And Peterson Zah was somebody I worked for when I first got out of graduate school. I went to work for Southwestern Indian Development, and Peterson Zah was the president of the board. So Peterson Zah and I became friends, and through my relationship with Peterson, when I became executive director of the Phoenix Indian Center, every bill I sent him for a service I provided Navajo, he reimbursed me. So the Navajo tribe was working with the Phoenix Indian Center in the mid-70s and reimbursing us for every service, for every Navajo we provided. And that is recognized. There's no separation, between the off-reservation and the reservation Indian. And so that whole concept, needs to be further recognized. And the way tribes are now recognizing it is because the more Indian people in the cities are becoming activists and involved in their tribal elections, increasingly there's a reaching out politically. And as you reach out politically, you recognize there's an economic reason also to reach out. Because the investment of your money in the urban area may turn a quicker return. And it may create also the kind of economic and political assistance you need in the city for issues related to the reservation. The heretofore, maybe the reservation leadership didn't understand, because it's seeking and understanding it has to function in the broader economic environment, not just on a reservation, because the reservation economies is tied to the state economy, to the regional economy, to the national and international economy, like all the other economies. So that makes us more valuable. We're a valuable human capital in the off-reservation area. As a development of any undeveloped people, and we're still relatively undeveloped in the larger economy, first has to be built on human capital. And the most of the human capital right now is in the industrial areas. And then most of the assets are in the industrial areas. So how do you begin to build on those assets in the industrial areas? You build on the human capital of the Indian people in the industrial areas first. And that's being recognized increasingly. Okay, we're sitting right here on a historic avenue. It's probably the most physically recognized Indian avenue in an urban area in the United States. Because Indian organizations and tribes are the largest landowner in and around this avenue over the several block basis. And this avenue is increasing in value. We have a light rail that's just been built running through the avenue from the downtown area to the Mall of America So next to what's called Fort Snelling, which is going to be the next largest development in the county in the next 50 years. And so all these elements are connected here, and since Indian people are the largest owners of land along this particular avenue, which is 5 minutes from downtown Minneapolis, it's increasingly going up in value. Recognizing that, the nonprofit groups, particularly on the avenue, the Indian Center, American Indian Community Development Corporations, Little Earth Housing Corporation, Neighborhood Development Corporation, Indian Women's Resource Center, Indian Clinic, not too far off, Migizi Communications, a number of Indian schools, all own assets in this area amounting to, could be $40 million, and that's a lot of leverage. But in addition to that, the Shakopee and Wakantan Band has put money in here for the redevelopment of buildings, as well as for the planning for the further development along the avenue. The Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe have put money in here for planning and are buying lots for their tribal members in the city to own their own homes, and have invested in other properties with American Indian CDC along the avenue. Little Earth Housing, which is within walking distance of the avenue, is the largest consolidation of Indian people anywhere in an urban area, with approximately 1,000 Indians living within a couple block area, within one housing unit. And that organization is seeking increasing support from the tribes in the area. We have Indian elected officials in this city who are particularly tied to this area. The Vice President of City Council is an Indian. Member of the school board is an Indian. Elected official on the library board is an Indian. So we basically have 3 elected Indian officials in the city that are directly or indirectly tied back to this avenue. And so that shows what you can do. Once you build an economic base in a defined area, and you get tribal support to further develop it, you can springboard to the political arena in a way you've never been able to before. And this is a good example where tribes and urban groups are working hand in hand. Not saying there aren't some differences and some interruptions from time to time when there are changes in leaderships and things like that, and which there have been, and even some mistakes that may have been done in some of the development. American NUIFC is one of the other ones on the avenue. So there are about 7 groups here that are directly on the avenue who are working together, a part of one organization now called the Native American Community Development Institute, that's been created as an umbrella vehicle for helping to facilitate the planning all along the avenue, supported by the county, by the city, all the major foundations. All are putting financing into this umbrella organization to sort of consolidate the planning along the avenue, because these groups want a recognizable Indian community that they can point to along this light rail from Mall of America to downtown to further draw resources into the city. All the cities are hurting financially. So to the extent we can create a physical Indian presence with more Indian businesses, more Indian shops, and everything that we're trying to create here, the city overall and the county are going to benefit.